since you have taken office, Mr. President, their increase in their bottom line by 8% since these tariff talks have happened. Not one company has said the president is not doing a good job. These tariff talks are working. They're feeling it on the ground. The media has told a false story because what's happening on the ground is positive, and that's what we're seeing in these jobs numbers. So I really, through the Department of Labor, to come in behind all the secretaries and build this workforce is going to be key to the American worker. So thank you for what everybody did this last week. The One Big Beautiful Bill is a doubling down of this, and we're going to see these workers start to grow. And that apprenticeship program is going to be working.
That's
we'll
right.
have that million apprentices across the country.
We, you know, as you know, we're building plants all over the country now, which you weren't building any plants 4 years ago. You weren't building anything. But those plants, when they open up, it's going to be, you'll see numbers like you haven't seen ever. I don't think in history you'll never see numbers like what we're going to see in the very near future. Many of them are building the plants. Some are just starting right now. You know, it's a brand new administration. But, and they wouldn't be here except for two things: November 5th, the election, and the tariffs. And frankly, I guess the election was more important because of the tariffs. I mean, another person wouldn't have done this. But they're coming in because of the tariffs. They have to, they're not going to pay 25, 30, 40, 50%, 70, and 100%. And we'll be announcing something very soon on pharmaceuticals. We're going to give people about a year and a half to come in, and after that they're going to be tariffed if they have to bring the pharmaceuticals into the country, the drugs and other things into the country. They're going to be tariffed at a very, very high rate, like 200%. We'll give them a certain period of time to get their act together. But they were all here, now they all left. They went to other places because we allowed, people that sat in this room allowed it to happen. And I don't allow it to happen. The people in this room don't allow it to happen. So we're going to be announcing pharmaceuticals, chips, and various couple of other things, you know, big ones. We did steel, as you know, they're 50%. We did aluminum, 50%. Lumber just came out.
Why don't you announce copper?
And we did cars. And now, today we're doing copper.
Copper and lumber. What would that tariff be on? The sectional tariff?
I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
50%.
Any breakthroughs in
See, I'm glad he
Gaza?
didn't question it. Just
Any
sort
breakthroughs?
of said, I just sort of thought, what would that be? That's a quick one. I didn't have much time, but he agreed with me. That's why he's ours. Right?
Any breakthroughs on Gaza with the Prime Minister, and there's reports that you're meeting with Netanyahu again tonight. Is that accurate?
I am. He's going to come over again tonight. We're talking about Gaza, mostly Gaza right now. It's he's been very unfairly treated. I think what they've done to him in Israel is very unfair, having to do with this trial. I think, you know, he's a wartime prime minister, had an unbelievable outcome, and I think he's been treated very unfairly. But he's coming over later. We're going to be talking about, I would say, almost exclusively Gaza. We got to get that solved. Gaza is a tragic. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. And he wants to get it solved, and I want to get it solved, and I think the other side wants to get it solved. Steve, could you talk on that, please?
We're in proximity talks now, and we had 4 issues, and now we're down to 1 after 2 days of proximity talks. So we are hopeful that by the end of this week, we will have an agreement that will bring us into a 60-day ceasefire. 10 live hostages will be released, 9 deceased will be released. We're meeting at the President's direction with all the hostage families to let them know. And we think that this will lead to a lasting peace in Gaza.
And you're doing a good job. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. A lot of hate, you know. It's called long-term hate. But we think we're going to have it solved pretty soon, hopefully with a real solution, a solution that's going to be holding up.
And can I follow up? This is, I think, the first cabinet meeting since Elon Musk has not been a special government employee, not here anymore. He's now saying he's going to create a third political party. Are you worried about the impact that that could have?
No, I think it'll help us. It'll probably help. Third parties have always been good for me. I don't know about Republicans, but for me.
Are you second guessing any of the cuts that DOJ made since you
No,
described him as
no.
off
Look,
the rails
look.
the other day?
We cut hundreds of billions of dollars with DOJ. We could have done it differently. I would have done it differently a little bit, maybe, but it was something that we saved a lot of money. You can always second guess. I guess some of the people in this room maybe would have done it slightly differently, and some would have done it exactly the way it was done. But it was dramatic, and it was important, and we found a lot of things like billions of dollars given to people for environmental protection, where they had $100 in the account, like in Atlanta, Stacy. And then you had another one with 20 billion here, and 20 billion here, and 2 billion here, and 15 billion. And Lee, you might want to mention just a couple of those things. We really got because of Doge.
At the Trump EPA, the one big beautiful bill was filled with many big beautiful wins for the taxpayer. It delivered a sledgehammer to the Green New scam. Billions of dollars rescinded. So it's a big deal for the American taxpayer who sees money go through pass-throughs that are filled with self-dealing and conflicts of interest. They see unqualified recipients. They see reduced agency oversight, and they want accountability with their tax dollars, and they got it. So in the example of the Stacey Abrams connected NGO, they received $100 in 2023. They got $2 billion in 2024. They had to complete training on how to develop a budget that was put into their grant agreement. They, out of nowhere, started paying a CEO $800,000, a COO $450,000, 22 people making over 150 grand. Out of nowhere, this is tax dollars. So money go through pass-throughs, through other pass-throughs, through other pass-throughs, and we lose oversight over it. And you see that it's going to former Biden officials, it's going to former Obama officials, it's going to Democratic donors. And we're not here saying we want to take money from a left-wing NGO and give it to a right-wing NGO. We want to give it back to the taxpayer. This is about us being good stewards of American tax dollars without any apology or regret. That's why President Trump was elected last November, because there are a whole lot of people who maybe they hadn't voted Republican in a long time. Maybe they didn't even vote for President Trump the first time around in 2016, but they're regretting that vote from 2016 and they were making it right in 2024. So the one big beautiful bill gave us the tools to rescind billions of dollars more. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars that'll get wasted per electric vehicle as an example of this money that was going through it. They gave $50 million to a group called Climate Justice Alliance. They say that climate justice runs through a free Palestine. The Biden EPA gave $50 million to a group that says that climate justice runs through a free Palestine. We say that if you're going to spend $1 in the name of remediating an environmental issue, then spend $1 on remediating an environmental issue. We say that we can protect the environment and grow the economy. We want to help grow more baseload power in this country. So why is it that it took this long for this team to get assembled, to be able to fix the mess that we inherited? But gosh, we love showing up at our jobs every single day, first thing in the morning, because all day long we get things done for the American taxpayer. And Congress did its part last week by passing one big beautiful bill to deliver this accountability and to cut off the Green New scam. So maybe it's a bad day for Stacey Abrams. Maybe it's a bad day for all those well-connected Democrats getting paid off. But you know what? God bless America. Because at the end of the day, President Trump is here, J.D. Vance is here, and the greatest cabinet ever assembled to deliver that much-needed and highly demanded accountability.
Mr. President,
That was a very good answer. And that's from the heart. That's from the heart.
On Ukraine, the Ukrainians have asked the International Court to go after Russia for using toxic chemicals in the fight. Germany and Germany and the Netherlands have had intelligence saying that. What does U.S. intelligence believe, and what do you believe about the use of chemical weapons? And would you agree that that's a case for the court?
Well, I'd ask John maybe to discuss it if you'd like, John.
Well, Mr. President, obviously chemical weapons, if it's documented and its use, it's illegal. It's against all international laws of armed conflict and treaties. And obviously I can't share in this room with this audience the intelligence that I can share with you privately, but obviously you're not going to stand or allow for any violations of international law by anyone.
That's right. Thank you. Could I ask Sean to Department of Transportation, Sean Duffy, former great congressman, very popular, decided to go out and make a couple of bucks. He made a lot. Then He got bored with that, though. He likes serving people better, the people. And could I ask you to just discuss a very important subject to me, and that's the modernization of our equipment at airports so that planes aren't crashing into each other and bad things don't happen. It should have been done many years ago. We were going to do it, and then the election precluded that, unfortunately, but we're doing it now. Could you tell them where we are?
Yeah, if I can start with Newark. You guys all covered what happened in Newark. We had outages for a couple of 30-second outages a couple months ago. We have, in 2 months, Mr. President, it's historic speed, laid new fiber lines for communication and tested those in the next month. So those new lines for the Philly Tracon that controls the Newark airspace, they're up and running, lightning fast speed. June was the most on-time June ever in the history of Newark for air travel. So that's going incredibly well. By the way, we shouldn't have dealt with this because Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg had moved the center from New York to Philadelphia. They didn't test the lines. They didn't do the work, which is what brought us all these problems. But in the big beautiful bill, we got $12.5 billion. This is a historic investment in air traffic control. And so what the money is going to allow us to do is move from copper to fiber all over the country. So new copper lines. We think we can do that in 1.5 to 2 years. We have radar that dates back to the 1950s, some of it from the 60s and 70s. We get brand new radar across the country as well. We have some infrastructure money to build TRACONs and centers, the en route centers that control the traffic across the country. So this is a massive new start to rebuild air traffic control. And again, this is dilapidated. Americans think that their government takes care of them and makes the investments that are necessary to make the country work. And for 30, 40 years, the investments weren't made. And so under your leadership and direction, we are making those investments. And per your direction, right now we are interviewing what we could call a general contractor or an integrator. One company to manage. It's a massive project. The FAA is not qualified to manage this kind of a project. So we are now going through the process of finding who that one company will be to manage the whole project. We'll interview those companies together and make that selection. So we'll write one big beautiful check to one beautiful company that'll be responsible for this whole build. But if I can just make one last point, this is not enough money. We're going to need more. But this is a massive new start. The biggest investment. We'll need some more money on top of it, but a great start from the big beautiful.
It's a starter. It was very important to us. And just to cover that, there have been accidents, and my pilots, I would often hear them say, "Oh, good," and they would use a different system, a different country to land in New York. They'd use the radar and other things from a different country. I said, "What's that?" He says, "Oh, our system is so bad." And I knew that. We were all set to start, and Buttigieg came in, and what they did was so crazy because they hooked it copper into fiber, into steel, they had all different systems. They had hundreds and hundreds of contractors, different contractors for different airports. They spent billions of dollars, and they made the system worse because you can't hook copper into fiber. That doesn't work that way. You just can't do it. It's not doable, but they tried to do it. Didn't work out too well. And in the end, it was just a complete disaster. We want to have one great company. Now, Raytheon's going to bid, IBM's going to bid. We have 5 or 6 bidders that really are good and do this stuff. And we want one, because I know about overruns, I look at the railroad out in California, headed up by one of the worst governors in our country, who I used to get along with actually, but he's just, when you lose 25,000 houses and you would have had your cities burned down. If we didn't step in, Los Angeles would have been burned to the ground. But you look at that, and I said, I really know how to build, and you got to have one guy, one contractor, one great one, whether it's IBM or Raytheon is good, but you have 4 or 5 that are really, really great, and they're all bidding against each other. But you don't want to have one doing the wire and one doing the digging and one doing the demolition and then they're all saying, they all blame each other because they're saying they were late and therefore you have to pay me millions of dollars more money. I know the system so well. And we're going to have a great company do the whole thing. We're going to get a fantastic price. Maybe we'll get them, they're very big and very strong, and maybe we'll get them to make a contribution toward it, toward, you know, getting it done at the right price. But we're going to have a great system. When we finish, we will have the best system on earth, done by one of the 2 or 3 best companies. There are only a few companies can do this. This is not. But if you would have seen what this other group did, they were going crazy. They had, I heard 3,000 contractors. And then when it all came together, guess what? It didn't work. It's a disaster. So we're going to have in a pretty short period of time, it'll take us about 2 years to build it, and we'll have a contract given out probably over the next couple of months. We have some great bidders, some great companies that want to do the job. You're going to have great air traffic control.
Can I just make one last point on this? So the last administration signed a contract with an American company to fix the copper to fiber, and that contract was a 15-year contract. The system is failing today, but that's how idiotic and incompetent the last administration was. And under your leadership, we're saying, listen, we don't have time. We don't have 15 years. We don't have 5 years. We have to do it right now. And so the president always talks about on time and on budget. We have embraced that. We are going to be on time and on budget. And by the way, you mentioned a train out in California. Stay tuned for probably give us 5 days and you'll have an answer on what's going to happen with the $4 billion that we potentially have invested on a train that's going to go nowhere. It's going to be $120 billion that'll never connect San Francisco to LA. Again, the last administration wasted so much money on projects that never work. If you're going to have high-speed rail, you're going to invest billions, we should actually have high-speed rail in America, not boondoggles that fund political friends and allies and family
They have
members.
from San Francisco, inside of San Francisco to inside of Los Angeles. Should have never been built because airplanes do it better. And you could drive it. You could drive it. No problem with driving it. The roads aren't even crowded. So they were going to do this. Somebody's idea. Somebody got paid off a lot of money and they started it. It was going to cost a very small amount of money. And it ended up costing literally hundreds of times what the original. And now what they did is they said, well, going into the city is too big a deal. So we'll leave it 25 miles short of the city. So now they're leaving it. They're not going to finish it, really. It's not the same project. So now they're leaving it outside of San Francisco and outside, short of each. They just want to get it done. And I've never seen cost overruns. You know, if you have a cost overrun of 10%, you should be ashamed of yourself. 20%, you should not do any more jobs. This is a cost overrun of 2,000%, something like that. It's unlimited, and it's not finished. And maybe it will never get finished. And I told Sean, look at it from every standpoint, but we don't want to, you know, we have federal money going into that, and it's like throwing it out the window. So whatever you can do to stop it.
$15 billion and not one track has been laid. $15 billion and we're 16 years into the project, not one track.
Mr. President,
on New York, you're the most prominent Republican in the country from the city. What do you want to?
Anywhere else?
Well,
I don't want to be a wise guy. Perhaps I can. Maybe Marco.
But how do you want Republican voters in the city to vote in the upcoming mayoral election? Should they vote for Eric Adams? Should they vote for Sliwa? Should they pick someone else?
Look, number one, you have a communist running, and you shouldn't vote for him. He's a disaster. He's leading. He's got the Democrat nomination because that shows you where the Democrats have gone. He actually wants to take over the grocery stores of John Catsimatidis, who's a great guy, a rich guy, grocer, does a good job, wants to take over. He actually called me the other day. He's concerned his stores are going to be taken from him, and they won't be run like John runs them. Believe me, he runs a good operation. But he actually said he wants to run his own grocery stores. No, this is a man who's not very capable, in my opinion, other than he's got a good line of bullshit, and he's convinced them to go with him. Now, as you know, Cuomo, who does have capability, is running, but he got knocked out, and now they're running as, you have Eric Adams, the current mayor, you have Cuomo, and you have Curtis Sliwa. And Curtis runs every 4 years. He seems to be a fixture on the running scale. But you know, I'm not getting involved. But I can tell you this, I used to say we will not ever be a socialist country, right? Well, I'll say it again, we're not going to have, if a communist gets elected to run New York, it can never be the same, but we have tremendous power at the White House to run places when we have to. We could run D.C. I mean, we're looking at D.C. We don't want crime in D.C. We want the city to run well. Susie Wiles is working very closely with the mayor, and they're doing all right. I mean, in the sense that we would run it so good, it would be run so proper, we'd get the best person to run it, the crime would be down to a minimal, would be much less. And, you know, we're thinking about doing it, to be honest with you. We want a capital that's run flawlessly, and it wouldn't be hard for us to do it. And we've had a good relationship with the mayor, and we're testing it to see if it works. But New York City will run properly. We're going to bring New York back. I love New York. You know, I loved New York for a long time. Then we had a bunch of crooked people in there. You have an attorney general who's a total stone cold crook, New York State, Letitia James, a total crook. All they do is want to go after political opponents. They do what's ever expeditious for them. She's the one that took out Cuomo because she wanted to run for governor, and then she ended up getting 1% of the vote. She polled at 1%. She dropped out, went back to attorney general. You have a lot of crooked things going on in New York. We're going to straighten out New York. Maybe we're going to have to straighten it out from Washington. But when I see a communist who has actually gotten a Democrat, pretty much gotten the Democrat nomination, they also went to that new form of voting, which is a beauty. You go in there in third place, you come out in first. That's that form of voting that they have gone to. You know what I'm talking about. It's not too good. We're going to do something for New York. I can't tell you what yet, but we're going to make New York great again also. We're going to make it great again with the country. What we've done in this country in the last 6 months, nobody has ever seen it. And I told the story, the King of Saudi Arabia, I was over there. They gave us $5.1 trillion between Saudi Arabia and UAE, Qatar. 3 stops, $5.1 trillion coming into our country as an investment, biggest investment ever made. And it's all going to good stuff. I mean, all real, big, good stuff. Energy projects, big, big things. But they all 3 told me essentially the same thing. We thought your country was dead, and now you've got the hottest country in the world. We're right now riding the hottest country. We all, and you can all be proud of it. We're in the hottest country. This is the hottest country in the world. There's nobody close. Made hotter by some great pilots and great machines that nobody else has. Those great, big, beautiful machines, they rode those machines right into the toughest territory, and nobody knew what the hell happened. And then they hit their targets perfectly, and it was complete and total obliteration. And that's why that war ended, Steve. They told me that's why the war ended. The war ended when they saw that, it was over. And we're very proud of it. But we have the hottest country in the world right now, from a country that was close to dead. And if I didn't win, if you would have had the other person win, we all know who she is, whether it was she or Biden, they're the same. He may have been more competent than her, and that's hard to believe, right? But if you had that ideology in, I don't believe you would have had a country anymore. I think you would have had a country that was broken up. But we had a dead country, now we have the hottest country in the world, and everybody knows it, and everybody said it. Mr. Vice President, do you have anything to say?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that I'm very proud of the whole team. I think everybody has worked together. You see Pete and Marco and Steve working on some of the diplomacy, Christy and Pam working on the border. We just have a really, really solid team, and we've done a lot of good work. And in particular, I want to congratulate the White House staff led by the President on getting the One Big Beautiful Bill passed. Yeah. I was personally skeptical. Sorry, I never told you this, but I was skeptical we'd be able to get that thing done by July 4th. We did it because we worked together and we worked very well. So it's an honor to be a part of it, but I'm really proud of you guys for doing a great job.
The beautiful thing about it, it had something for everyone.
That's right.
Most people said it had to be broken into 7 bills. It's so big. The problem was that some of those 7 have nothing for anyone but they had to be done for the country. You know, sometimes you have to do things for the country that aren't necessarily popular. We had a couple of them, and that wouldn't have worked. So the one big beautiful bill, many people said it could never be approved. Too big, too everything. There's too much. But it had something very big and very important for everyone, and it's great for the country. And remember, the Democrats have come up with a false narrative, you know, just whatever. It's just a line that they send to everybody and that they print. I think in the case of this, it's death, death. Everyone's going to die. I heard that. Everyone's going to, just the opposite. Everyone's going to live. What we're doing is saving our country and making it much bigger, better, and stronger than it ever was. I'd like to ask, Marco's been doing such a great job. Do you have anything to say?
Well, it's just going through a list here, Mr. President, and I think the Vice President's pointed out to the great team you have, and all these achievements that have happened domestically. But you think about it, under your leadership, we prevented and ended a war between India and Pakistan. NATO's now at 5% for the first time ever, the highest numbers ever. A peace deal between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. A 12-day war that ended with an American operation that we're the only country in the world that could have done. Hopefully, pretty soon, a peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The entire Middle East and the infrastructure of it has the potential now to change because of Syria and Lebanon, and it hasn't even been 6 months.
Sure.
It hasn't even been 6 months, so it's a
It's a
great
lot.
testament to your leadership in this.
Well, thank you very much, and you've done a fantastic job. Could I just ask Linda, she's involved in so much, she's so talented and so good, and she's working on a couple of little things like Harvard, who was given $5.5 billion over a short period of time. We caught him on that one, it's crazy, but you're working on so much, you want to bring education back to the States. How are you doing?
Well, absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity. I think on the big, beautiful bill, what we saw, you know, was school choice, you know, that's finally on a national basis at the state level, but there are opportunities now for scholarships, more and more of them for kids who are in failing schools. It's going to be a big turnaround. I think one of the biggest accomplishments we had over the past week was the University of Pennsylvania with the Title IX ruling that Leah Thomas was stripped of her title, Riley Gaines and Paula Scanlon and other women who have stood, you know, so strong against men and women's sports. And when you put out the, you know, the executive order, I mean, that just solidified it and gave them the opportunity. So those are a couple of really, really big wins, and thank you for that opportunity.
And how are you doing with Columbia and Harvard?
We're negotiating hard. I think we're getting close to having that happen. It's not wrapped up as fast as I wanted to, but we're getting there.
Okay, good. And you've done a fantastic job. Thank you very much.
It's been a good team.
Yep,
The team
you have a great team.
around this table, a lot of people have helped with that.
That's right. Thank you very much. Maybe just in closing, you know, we spent a lot of time, effort, very little money on this room. This is called the Cabinet Room. It's been here for a long time. And it had some pictures that were not many of them and not very good ones. And I actually spent time in the vaults. The vaults are where we have a lot of great pictures and artwork. And I picked it all myself. I'm very proud of it. That's Andrew Jackson, great Andrew Jackson. That's a gentleman named, and we call him President Polk. He was sort of a real estate guy. He was, people don't realize he was he was a one-termer, but he was a very good president. But, and I'm not sure I should be doing this, he actually gave us the state of California. He was the one. He was the one that hooked it up. So I'm not sure, maybe he won't be there for long. But if you notice, the frame is the exact same size almost as the other one is Andrew Jackson. So that was a part of the reason too, I have to be honest. But Polk was actually a very good president who's got the same frame that I needed, okay? And up here you have the original George Washington right behind the light. And then you have Dwight Eisenhower, who was a very underrated president. He built the interstate system, and he was the toughest president, I guess, until we came along. But I don't mind giving up that crown, because I don't want to be too tough on it, but we want to be humane. But he was the toughest president on immigration. He was very strong at the borders, very, very strong. And sometimes you can be too strong. He was strong at the borders, and during a certain period of time, they were so strong that almost every farmer in California went bankrupt. And we have to remember that. We have to work together, and we have to remember that. but he was a very good president and a very good general and a very good president, and I thought he deserved a position somewhere on this floor. And then you have, this is very exciting to me, he was not a Republican, to put it mildly, but he was, you know, he was a four-termer. He was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And if you notice, there were a lot of ramps outside. We have ramp, people say it's an unusual place for a ramp. It was because of him. He was wheelchair bound, but he was an amazing man. It's an amazing portrait, and we used to have him in the room, a different portrait, and it was a terrible portrait. It was almost like it was done by a child. And I used to say, you know, I can't believe that he would have approved of that portrait of himself. And I was in the vaults and looking at things. I said, what's that? And we have some great curators here. We have 6 curators at the White House. They have 2 for paintings, they have them for furniture, they have them for different things. I guess cost is no object. Okay, cost is, maybe I'd have 1, but that's all right. But we have 6, and they're very talented, though. And he said, that's a picture of FDR. I said, really? Let me see it. They took off the wrappings, very well preserved. And I said, that's the picture they've been looking for years. That was the picture of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I said, oh, wow. And likewise, that fit, see frame-wise, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work if you have, I want to be nice, but it doesn't work if you have a big frame, a little frame, and you, but it's like perfection. I'm a perfectionist. The mirror was down in the vaults also. I said, where is this from? And it's a very old, very storied mirror, beautiful. We put that up. And then over there is Honest Abe Lincoln. And that picture was in his bedroom. And we thought that this would be a very important place because this is where wars are ended. I'm not going to say wars are declared. I'm going to say wars are ended, okay? We'll be positive. And that's the picture of Abe Lincoln from his bedroom, sat in the bedroom for many, many years. That was his favorite picture of himself. And the Lincoln bedroom's very famous. You remember when Bill Clinton had it and he rented it out to people, okay? We don't do that. But it's an incredible room. And we took that picture from his bedroom. That's Abe Lincoln. And then over here you have John Adams, and it's, they were the first occupants of the White House, 1800. And John Quincy Adams, Mrs. Adams, they were the first occupants. So we have them looking at each other, and in between their stare is Abraham Lincoln trying to make peace. And that picture was in a room that I have that was not important, like the cabinet. I gave it up. I said, I have to give it up because that's one of the greatest pictures of the White House. The White House is tremendous art. And the Oval Office, when we're there, we'll go over that. That's really been something. Then we got the drapes, so we got the whole thing. We got new drapes. We got new, wasn't a big expense, very, very small. And we took some of the chinaware and silverware and trophyware, they call it, from the vaults, and we had it cleaned up. Hadn't been shined up in 100 years. Some of this has sat in the vaults for over 100 years. Amazing. Over 100 years. Many of the pictures that were put up in the Oval Office, as an example, those two as an example. So he was president. They moved in 1800, and he won the election, I believe, in November of 1800, John Quincy Adams. And we thought that would be, he was considered to be a good president, and he was the first occupant of the White House, so it sort of made sense. And I love the frame of those pictures. Look at those frames, you know? I'm a frame person. Sometimes I like frames more than I like the pictures. And we have the flags of the Marines, and Space Force now has its own flag. I'm very proud of Space Force, but the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, the whole thing. And Coast Guard is right there. We never forget the Coast Guard. They do a great job. So we have the flags throughout the office. And it's really become quite a beautiful place. I don't want to tell this, Marco pointed it out. I was going to leave the clock. So as president, you have the power. If I go into the State Department or Department of Commerce or Treasury, if I see anything that I like, I'm allowed to take it. Do you believe this? So I'm in Marco's, I see this gorgeous clock, grandfather clock, and there it is. I said, Marco. He didn't know about it. I had to read him the rule and regulation. I said, Marco, I love this clock. Look at it. It's beautiful. He said, what clock? I said, the clock that's in the other room is incredible, and nobody gets to see it there. Marco, I tried to talk him into it first, and it sort of worked, and then I had to use a little more. I said, I'd love to take that clock out and put it in the cabinet room. He said, no, are you serious? I said, Marco, I have the right to do it, Marco. And he said, all right, what the hell? So that's his contribution to the cabinet room. But it's, by the way, it's an incredible clock. And, you know, it's an important room. So you may see it again. Maybe we'll move it back someday. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. But it really is great. Here we put on, you know, these lamps have been very important, actually. Whether people love them or not, but if you see pictures like Pearl Harbor and Tora Tora Tora, you see movies about the White House and where wars are being discussed, oftentimes they'll show those lamps or something like those lamps, something that looks like them, probably not the reals, because I don't think they were allowed to. This is a very important room. This is a sacred room, and I don't think they made movies from here. You never know what they do. But they were missing medallions. See the medallions on top? They had a chain going into the ceiling. And I said, you can't do that. You have to have a medallion. They said, what's a medallion? I said, I'll show you. And we got some beautiful medallions. And you see them. They were put up there. It makes the lamps look better. So we did these changes. And, you know, when you think of it, the cost was almost nothing. We also painted the room a nice color, beige color. And it's been really something. The only question is, will I gold leaf the corners? You could maybe tell me my cabinet could take a vote. You see the top line moldings, and the only question is, do you gold leaf it? Because you can't paint it. If you paint it, it won't look good because they've never found a paint that looks like gold. You see that in the Oval Office. They've tried for years and years. Somebody could become very wealthy, but they've never found a paint that looks like gold. So painting it is easy, but it won't look right. And the question is whether or not we should gold leaf it. Linda, do you have an opinion?
I gold leaf it.
You like it the way?
No, I gold leaf it.
You'd gold leaf it?
Yeah.
Who would gold leaf it? Could I raise you? How about, would you gold leaf it?
I was going to ask about McKinley. One of their favorite presidents.
Well, McKinley was a great president who never got credit. In fact, they changed the name of Mount McKinley, and I changed it back because he should have been, the people of Ohio he was the governor of Ohio. The people of Ohio were very happy when I did that, I heard. They were very insulted. They took the name of Mount McKinley off. That was done by Obama a little while ago, and I had to change it back. I changed it back. He actually was a great president. He was a president, he was the tariff, the most, I guess, since me. I think I'm going to outdo him, but he was a tariff president. He believed that other countries should pay for the privilege of coming into our country and taking our jobs and taking our treasure. That's the way he explained it. They took our jobs and they took our treasure, and for that they should pay. And he made them pay, and he built a tremendous fortune. In fact, in 1887, they had the Great Tariff Committee was set up in 1887 because our country had so much money, we didn't know what to do with it. And they set up a committee of, as they called them, elites, a term that we have to change because I think a lot of the people that are elites aren't elite. I think the people that aren't elite are elite, so we're going to have to maybe switch that around somehow. But they had a committee that was set up to spend the money because it was such a large amount of money at that time. It was nobody had seen anything like it, and it all came in from tariffs, and people didn't pay tax. There was no income tax system. I told you that came back in 1913. That came back and lived well for a while, and then you had the Great Depression, and then later they tried to bring back tariffs, but the whole thing was, you know, this was after the Depression. That was one of the great misconceptions, is people like to say, oh, but it was during the, but no, the country had a Great Depression, and then after the Depression, long after it started, they brought back tariffs to see if they could save it, but it took them really 25 years. When you say about 25 years to get out of the Great Depression, a lot of people don't understand that. But I thought it would be interesting for you to get a little view of this room. This is a very important room, very powerful room. great room. And we've done similar, but even beyond this, in the Oval Office. We brought back pictures of some of the great presidents. Many of them were in the vaults for over 100 years. Originals all, beautiful, beautiful things. And rather than sitting in a vault downstairs for 128 years, I thought we should display that, and we did that, I think, in a really good way. We've gotten very high marks. But it's interesting. People walk into that room and they look around the room. They don't even want to talk to me. They could look at it for hours. It's funny when people come into the Oval Office. It's such an incredible. It's a sacred place. When people come into the Oval from the biggest people in the world, presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, one case at least, queens, and the biggest business people in the world. They walk into that office and they always say there's no place like this in the whole world in terms of the power. I mean, it's beautiful and all, but there are other beautiful offices. You have businessmen that have offices that are, you know, full floors of office buildings, floor-to-ceiling glass, and they walk in there and they say, there's no place like this anywhere in the world. There's no place. And, you know, it's what it represents maybe more than the physicality of the room itself. So it's an honor to have you all, media. It's an honor to have you. I just want to say we have a fantastic cabinet. Every one of them is a star in my book. And if they're not, I'll let you know about it. I don't care. I'll throw them to the wolves. I'll throw them to the wolves in 2 seconds, because our country comes first, right? But I just want to thank you all for being here. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, press, everybody. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
I'll tell you some other time. Thank you.
Are you going to the Gold Cup? Are you going to deliver the trophy?
Yeah, I will.
You bringing the trophy with you?
Are we talking about next week or in a year?
Sunday.
I'm going to go.
You're going to bring the trophy
I'll be
with
going
you?
to the game.
Are you
Yeah.
delivering the trophy?
I'm going to deliver it. They have it in my office.
Yes, I know.
You're right.
You're giving it up? No.